At the time I'm writing this, the story that happened to me was 5 days ago. It was on a Saturday, and for context, I am a 16-year-old French boy. Sorry in advance if I made grammar mistakes. So I was with my friend this Saturday in my little French hometown, casually hanging out at the border of the town for a whole hour. My friend here is a 17-year-old girl. We were sitting on big rocks behind the kindergarten school of our town, right in front of the beet field around 8 p.m. The sky was starting to turn dark. Nothing has ever really happened in our town since we live in it, except recently when a dad stabbed his daughter and wife 40 times, but it has nothing to do with my story. Note that there aren't many foreigners there since it's kind of a lost country town close to Paris. So I was sitting with my friend eating stuff like we casually do when we hang out, when suddenly, I spotted a man with a beanie. He had his hands in his sweatshirt and was directly walking towards us. He was way too close for my friend and me to get up and walk away. He comes right in front of us and starts talking English. My friend doesn't speak English, so she didn't really know what was happening at this time. So this guy comes right in front of me when he noticed that I was able to speak English and tries to shake my hand, which I deny the approach. Note that he didn't look like he was drunk or under drugs. The weird guy starts talking to me and he points out the field that was behind my back, which means that if I wanted to look at it I would have needed to turn back to him. And then he says very insistent, "Is that cabbage?" I responded yes, but he wasn't satisfied by my response since he was trying to get me to look behind me. However, there was literally the other part of the field that was in my line of sight at my left. He tried to get me to look again and again, which was kind of stressing because this guy was at like less than a meter away from me, which means that he could have done everything he wants to me. Then he told me some incoherent stuff like, "My driver told me there was cabbage," or "I asked people, they didn't understand." Right after saying that, he pats my shoulder, goes behind me and crouches at the border of the field. He tells me to come to see if it was cabbage when I clearly told him many times that it was cabbage, even though it was not. I was just trying to get rid of this creep, but it kinda looked like cabbage. Right when I see that I'm out of his range, I say to my friend to take her bag and start running. At first she thought I was joking, but when she saw me running she changed her mind. We were like 20 meters away from him and he started walking towards us but rapidly disappeared behind the kindergarten school. My friend and I were both really unsettled and quickly wanted to go home. We said goodbye to each other and we split in two different directions. I needed to go by the elementary school that was right next to the kindergarten school to get home. Suddenly, I see the creep coming from the road that was between the field and the kindergarten school with his phone on and in his hands. I quickly turned around and went at my friend's house with her, waiting for his father to drive me home. Later that night my friend and I were talking and we suggested that it may be some kidnapping or organs trafficking stuff, since it was the first time we saw an alone foreigner that didn't speak a single word in French. The fact that he got up and escaped quickly when we started running hinted me on the fact that it was just some pretext to get me to move away from my friend. Maybe he had texted some guy waiting in a car for them to kidnap my friend or me, since the creep was clearly trying to make us lose time with his cabbage thing. Later that night I told what happened to a friend that lives in the same town as us, and he told us that this guy was hanging around the town with a weird behavior that day. We were really unsettled and scared after that event, but now we're completely good, and I'm wondering if we're doing too much about that guy, even though my intuition really told me to get away from him. If anyone has anything to say to help us clear this, if it looks like some already known cases that already happened to someone. To this creep that made me feel I was being trapped in a horror movie, let's not meet again.